So many people, definitely myself included in this, longed for self-esteem and self-worth and self-value and all of that. Once you realize how truly brilliant you are, you have that self-esteem. And, it's just, yeah, whoever is listening, you are amazing. You really are.
Mhm.
The self-revelation is rediscovering that. You don't have to be better. It'd be great if you were you, but you don't
Yeah.
have to be better.
You're already better. You're already there.
Yeah.
Just
Mhm.
need to
Yeah, you just have to
rediscover.
discover that within
Yep,
yourself. You've
Yep.
forgotten
exactly.
it. Welcome back to Travel Time Stories with Shannon, where real journeys meet real stories and healing happens one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Shannon, coming to you from the Lone Star State of Texas. Some weeks I open up and share pieces of my own life story, from my travel adventures to the winding road of healing and personal growth. And other weeks, I'm joined by my best friend and co-host Ann from Missouri as we sit down with special guests who share their experiences, insights, and expertise to help all of us along our own journeys. Today, Ann is here with me. Hey, Ann.
Hey, everybody.
And today's guest embodies the heart of this podcast because her story reminds us that travel isn't always about where we go. Sometimes it's about what we discover once we stop running. And from 2016 to 2020, Kristen Crabtree traveled full time across the United States and Canada in an RV, exploring freedom, identity, and the quiet truth that no matter where we go, there we are. So today she's an author and she's a transformative guide who helps people navigate major life transitions by reconnecting with themselves and choosing clarity over fear. Anne and I are so excited to welcome you, Kristen, to the
Yes.
show. Thank you for being here.
I am so
Thank you.
excited to be here, Shannon and Ann. Thank you for having me.
Well, as we say on Travel Time Stories, grab your favorite beverage, everyone, and let's get into it.
Hey, she had a beverage. Yay!
Yay! Awesome. So, Kristen, before we get into what you do now, I'd love to go back to the beginning. What first sparked the decision to live full time in an RV on the road?
I'm an Army brat. And for those of you who don't know what that term means,
Yay.
We know.
my dad was military. My other dad was military. My grandpa was military. My other grandpa was military, and my other grandpa was so like that. It runs deep in my blood, and I've always been the kind of person, because of that, that if I'm somewhere 3 years, I start to get itchy. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go. And I wound up living in California for a really long time. And in one area in particular, gorgeous Central Coast, California, for a lot of years. And it was a big change for me to live in one place for so long. But as circumstances would have it, not necessarily under my control, I was relocated up to Portland, Oregon. I was not happy there. I had always wanted to travel in an RV. My then wife also had always said she wanted to do that. So, about 10 months into us living in Portland, we decided, we had been waiting until we were older, until we were retired, although she was retired, but until we were the right age to travel. And we finally decided, you know what, let's just do it. Let's go out for a year, get an RV, and then we'll sell the RV after we're done. Well, we were in Utah for 6 months and then realized we've been in Utah for 6 months. So a year is not quite long enough. And we weren't in just one place in Utah, but there's so many national parks there. And we had a RV where we could be completely off grid. We had solar and
Oh, nice.
compost toilet and all that stuff. Neither one of us were the type to want to camp in RV parks unless we were in transition somewhere and that was the only place to park. But we really liked what they call boondocking, which is off-grid camping, usually on BLM land, which I don't think they have in Texas or Missouri or Massachusetts. It's Bureau of Land Management, and it's more like the mountain states and the West Coast and that kind of thing.
Yep.
But then also, there's state land and there's state parks and all of those that are fewer accommodations, I guess, I could say. And so we did that. About 6 months into our RV travels, when we hadn't really gotten much past Utah, we decided, okay, we'll probably do this more than a year, but let's see how things go. And so we kind of removed that artificial deadline and stayed traveling for 3.5 years. We probably would have traveled longer, but that gets into a whole nother story, whole nother chapter of my life. But yeah, that's sort of how it happened. And the other part of that was we both had traveled a lot internationally. I mean, I lived in Nigeria when I was young. I lived in Germany. She had lived in the UK and Ireland. And, we both had traveled a lot abroad and hadn't done quite as much in the US. I had pretty much only explored the West Coast and the East Coast. I hadn't been much in the Central or the South. And I wanted to see all that. I wanted to see what our country is,
Yeah.
Right. That would be so fun.
Most people, when they want to travel, especially if you're from the United States, your whole deal is traveling like you want to go across the pond and go to Europe and all that. But there's so much in our backyards right here in the United States, so much beauty and history just right here
It's
that people don't
amazing.
really explore.
The something that I did during that time, I'm one of those people that like kind of can't sit still, and I wasn't working a job on the road. And so one of the things that fascinated me at the beginning of our travels was I was 40 something when we started traveling, I think like 47, 48. And she was like 6 years older or something, 5 years older. We thought we would be the young ones on the road. We were expecting everybody to be 60s, 70s. And that's not the case. At least when we were traveling, there's this huge culture now of full-time RVers who are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. They have babies on the road. There was this one family that was 7 people in a van, like a van, right?
No.
And
Wow.
I became really fascinated by this. And being a writer and being bored, I as bored as you could be going to all these beautiful national parks. But I decided to interview different full-time travelers that I had seen on Instagram or Facebook from different generations. And this goes back to 2017, so I'm not marketing the book on this show, but I did write a book called The New American Dream, Finding Lifestyle Freedom on the Road. It's a super fun read. It's really cheap on Amazon because I haven't marketed it, so they keep dropping the price, if you want to check it out. But it's stories that each of these 25 families or couples or individuals shared with me about their travels, and then also I distilled it all into practical tips for somebody who did want to travel full time in an RV. So that's kind of
nice.
That became my fascination that I turned into a project really for myself more than anything else,
Yeah.
That's great.
That's really interesting though. I'll definitely have to check that out because I would love to hear the stories of the people who have done this, especially the different age ranges and their perspectives on it and the ways that they're doing it. Because I'm sure each age range is doing it just a little bit different than the other.
Yep, exactly.
So how did people around you respond when you told them you were going to live in an RV?
Oddly enough, I think my family kind of gets more concerned when I seem settled because I've just never really been the traditional get married to a man and have babies, have a corporate job and work 9 to 5. Like none of that has ever really been me. And so my family wasn't surprised at all. At all. And my friends were all excited because they're like, oh, we could meet up with you on the road. And that was actually one of the fun lessons I learned, was that there are people that I know right now in my life who would like to travel, but they're either afraid of like losing touch with friends or separating from all their belongings that they, have memories of or whatever.
Mhm.
And what I found about friendships and about relationships on the road that surprised me and filled me with joy was the friendships that I had that were meaningful. So my close ones, probably, a handful to half a dozen, they would meet up with us on the road. And because we would have concentrated in a little space, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days together with these people, you learn so much more and get so much closer in that kind of capacity than you do meeting for cocktails once a week.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Exactly.
just a different experience. And so I think my friendships actually became much richer as a result of traveling rather than what I was afraid of and what I think a lot of people are afraid of, that they will grow apart or that there will be
Mhm.
distance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. So
Hmm.
travel's often romanticized as this freedom and clarity, but living on the road full time is a totally different experience than just taking a vacation for a couple weeks or whatever. So what surprised you the most when you were actually living it?
So, one was that realization that no matter where you go, there you are. I realize now, I realized that in the moment. There was one moment where I was sitting in the RV and I thought, you know, she and I think both thought our life would be different, that we would eat healthier and be more active and, drink less and eat less and whatever if we were traveling. But
Mhm.
no, wherever you go, there you are. So
Mhm.
we drank probably even more. And yeah, I mean, we hiked and explored great things, but we were not our healthiest and we did not get healthier doing the full-time RVing. So I realized that in the moment, and I realized it even more reflecting on things. I had a very psychologically abusive marriage that I didn't know was psychologically abusive, which is the art of being a psychological abuser, is
Yep.
you know, find a way that they don't even know they're being abused. And
Mhm.
what fascinated me up until really just a year ago was, we had such a great relationship because we never fought. I mean, we were able to live in a couple hundred square feet for all those years under stressful conditions and never fight. What an amazing relationship. Where did it fall apart? Well, we never fought because I had learned to never disagree. Maybe even it was we probably had an easier coexistence during that time because I was being psychologically abused, controlled, and manipulated and drunk. We probably had a better relationship than we would have if I wasn't being psychologically abused and we weren't drunk the whole time. And so I think there's that component too about, like what's happening in our lives. It doesn't change just because the road changes, our environment changes, where we're camped
Right.
changes. It's wherever you go, there you are.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
so true.
It's, yeah. So, what parts were harder than you expected, emotionally or internally?
What parts were harder? You know, eh, even though I am so grateful I'm not married to her anymore, I loved those years. I really did. Yes, it was dysfunctional. There was lots of, you know, bad stuff. It was also kind of amazing. I mean, the money was not great. So we worked jobs every 6 months to every year or whatever to afford it. Our first job was at a state park That was kind of a cool job. We were camped on a lake. We were the only people camped there because it was a day
Oh,
use park.
nice.
And so our job was to open the gates, close the gates, trim the paths, that kind of thing. And we were there. That was in Washington State. And we were there for a few months. And then we went to Montana. And this must have been after our time in Utah. We thought we were going to just travel for a year. And once we realized we were going to travel longer, we realized we have to find a way to afford this. So that's when we went to Washington. We did the 3 months there. And then I think that's when we went across Canada. We did that in 2017. But when we came back, we worked in Montana at a campground on Flathead Lake.
Oh.
If you haven't been there, go. Incredible place. And we were camp hosts there, had the most amazing experience. There were actually 2 other couples that we camp hosted with because it was a big campground. And so we would alternate responsibilities. But I've already shared, I'm gay, right? So I was married to a woman. And the people closest to us, the other camp hosts, were a Mormon family, young family with a couple of kids. And I've always been open minded, so it didn't faze me. The husband was like totally welcoming and cool and great. The wife was a little at first, she just wasn't sure about these lesbians camped next to her with her 2 cute little kids running around. We
Right.
all became such good friends. I mean, we kept in touch with them later. They traveled to see us when we were off the road. We traveled to see them. I have Zoomed with their kids over the years and seen their kids grow up. So
That's
just,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, like really incredible experience. I haven't talked to them in about a year, but I consider them really good friends. I feel like they're people that I could call and say, hey, I'm going to be, in your neck of the woods. Can I stay over or whatever? So just really interesting experiences like that. After that, we worked the sugar beet harvest, which, yeah, that's what I would skip. Okay, so you said what was the hardest thing? Working the sugar beet harvest. I would not repeat that one.
I can't imagine.
So we found my answer. It took a while.
I knew it was out there.
Yeah. I had to dig around for it, but I found it. And we did that for my 50th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so fun.
What a fun celebration for 50, not.
So great. Yeah.
Could you even move after the end of the day? I mean, really?
They were 12-hour shifts because we had pets. I worked the day shift and she worked the night shift so that the pets wouldn't be alone for 12 hours.
Right.
Because we had a dog and a cat in the RV with us. So, it was cramped quarters.
Yeah.
She worked nights. I worked days. We didn't see each other, pretty much during that entire time, which actually was probably good. I was beyond exhausted. I was super, super, super exhausted. Yeah.
Can't imagine.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely would not want to be doing that on my 50th birthday for sure.
No.
So we touched on where we go, there we are, and how you can't outrun certain feelings, questions, or patterns just because your environment changes or whatever. Those are what they are. And how did that realization change the way you relate to travel or to yourself?
That's an interesting question. I think, and this is reflecting back, this is not in the moment, but I think it filled me with a little bit of sorrow and anxiety because I wasn't happy. I think I thought I was happy, but so a long time ago, before I met my wife, so 24 years ago or whatever, I was diagnosed as bipolar. I've been on medication, super stable ever since then. I feel that when our bodies get under stress, everybody has their own sort of thing that they're predisposed to that kind of breaks,
Yep.
So for me, it's my mental chemistry or whatever, right? That's my break. I had lived my whole life in this kind of place where I think I had just accepted that this is how life is. I think realizing, oh my God, no matter where you are, there you are. I think it probably um, intensified that um, sort of sadness that this is really it, you know? I'm never going to feel better. If I can't feel better traveling, I'm never going to feel better. What I've come to realize now after leaving the marriage and going through an internal journey, I've come to an amazing place of peace that I didn't even know was possible. And so now I'm filled with joy. But I think up until I did the internal journey, um, those lessons on the road on some psychological level actually brought me sorrow. Yeah.
I love the story that you told about the Mormon family and how welcoming the husband was, and the wife was kind of skeptical at first and then she came around. That's my wish for every person in this world. Let's just be open.
Yeah.
We may have our reservations, but be open and get to know somebody. Don't be worrying about a label or any preconceived notions you may have or whatever biases, and just get to know somebody, because most times once you do, you're going to have an incredible friendship, a new
Yep.
friendship, and a change in mindset.
On that note, I've been marveling lately at how so I have learned to practice gratitude, you know,
Hmm.
and I have become very aware and very grateful for the presence of amazing people in my life. And I have 6 people in my life that I would consider best friends. And for me, that means I could call them at 3 a.m. and they would bail me out of the local jail, you know,
Right.
that
Yep.
kind of thing. And when I look at them all, the one that I've had the longest, I have known since I was 13. And the one that I've known the shortest was my neighbor at the last place I lived when I escaped my wife and moved to a place I'd never lived before. So he's a very new friend. And
Hmm.
they are all so different, shockingly different.
Right.
And it is so amazing to be blessed with such a variety and a multitude of personalities and interests and things like that, and how much they add to my life rather than if they were all cookie cutter like me. You know,
Ex-
it's a lot more beautiful thing to have the experience of such varied ways of looking at life and interests and all
Yeah,
of that.
I think that's how we enrich ourselves,
Yeah.
is by having
Yes.
that diversity among friends and relationships. That's how we enrich ourselves. If you're surrounded by the same people that
Yep.
think like you, look like you, do the same things as you, you're not growing, you're not
No.
enriching.
Yep.
And actually, that's boring.
Yes.
Who
Yes.
wants to be surrounded by people that like and do the same things as you? That's
I know.
boring to me.
Exactly.
It is. I agree. Yeah.
So the extended travel, usually it strips things away from you, your normal roles, your routines, labels. So when those things fell away for you, who were you?
Yeah, who was I? I was drunk a lot. I'm sober now, actually. I've been sober for February 23rd will be 2 years because
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yes.
And, you know, honestly, I don't know if I was a true alcoholic, whatever that means, but I
Hmm.
know that alcohol was keeping me from truly being alive and being just tuned in. And the stripping away of everything is kind of a scary thing. And so covering it up with alcohol was a really good solution. The reason I say I don't know if I'm a true alcoholic is I didn't have any trouble giving it up. I have
Right.
way more trouble giving up sugar. I'm still addicted to sugar. Oh my
Amen.
Aren't we
God.
all? Aren't we
Yeah.
all?
But the alcohol I gave up really without any trouble. And I gave it up initially once I actually, right before I asked for a divorce. And I said, once the divorce is final, I'll start drinking again. Well, I realized it wasn't really adding anything to my life. And I think for me, it is a slippery slope habitually, you know? what's it like when everything's stripped away? Is that sort of what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess the alcohol ties in with that because, yeah, I mean, that's what I resorted to really hide from whatever was there, both internally as well as in my marriage, in my
That was your
life.
Band-Aid there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep, it
Yeah.
really was.
So, can you explain the concept of self-recovery, not self-help?
Yeah, I hate the term self-help, to be totally
Right?
honest, because it implies there's something broken or wrong or, that there's
Exactly.
something wrong with us. And even personal development, I don't really like either. For
No.
me, what the journey, the travels, the adventure that I've been on since realizing I was psychologically abused, which was after I left my marriage. Like I I didn't leave my marriage knowing I was psychologically abused. I
Right.
left my marriage because I couldn't stay. And once I left and realized that's what was going on, and I realized I had no idea who I was, like at all. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what furnishings I liked. She liked mid century modern, which is beautiful. And I'm so grateful that she liked something beautiful, but it wasn't me. This type of stuff. And for those of you just listening, I have like an Indian tapestry behind me. My house is so vibrant and full of color. I was a hippie when I met her, but she didn't like the hippie part of me. And
Oh.
so I forgot I was the hippie, I
Yeah.
forgot that I had metaphysical inclinations. I forgot, whatever. For me, self recovery is about it's hearing, it's having a relationship with the real you. And I call it an excavation where you're digging through the rubble to find the artifacts that give you clues as to who you are, which you can then say, oh, this is who I am. Okay, amazing. So, what am I going to do with that in this life? And you can become intentional with how your future is. I have been saying this lately because I never thought I would say this. I am amazing. I am magnificent. I am spectacular. And all of you are. Everybody listening to this podcast is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely brilliant.
I love that.
But we forget it. So many people, definitely myself included in this, longed for self esteem and self worth and self value and all of that. And once you realize how truly brilliant you are, you have that self esteem. And whoever is listening, you are amazing. You really
Mm-hmm.
are. And so the self revelation is rediscovering that. You don't have to be better. It'd be great if you were you, but you don't
Yeah.
have to be better.
Exactly. I totally
Y-
agree with that statement.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're already better. You're already there.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Mm-hmm.
need to
Yeah, you just have to
rediscover.
discover that within
Yep.
yourself. You've
Yep.
forgotten
Exactly.
it. I talked about it on one of my previous episodes, that we get so buried over the years with all these labels and things that we have to do that society expects of us and we think we're supposed to do because, we were told that by our parents or whatever. And little by little by little over the years, you forget who your me is, but your
Yep.
me is still in there
Yep.
and it's waiting to come out.
Yep.
It's waiting for you to say, hey, I remember you.
Yes.
Come on, come out and play,
Yes.
You're
Yes.
fun.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you have to, remember that and dig that me out and bring it back out and find
Yep.
yourself once again and remember how wonderful you are and move forward in your you.
Yes. That is
Yeah.
exactly it. So it's reconnecting the self recovery, self revelation, self reclamation process is learning to peel away all those layers. Let me back up to something here too, because when I started realizing that I had abandoned myself, is what I felt like. I had put so
Mm-hmm.
many layers on top of that beautiful little specimen at the bottom of the pile that I started feeling a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and anger at myself and anger at other people. What I've come to realize is all those layers were really just adaptations so that I could be safe, loved, and accepted. That's all they were there for. So
Mhm.
they weren't something bad. I wasn't doing something bad by adapting. I wasn't doing something wrong by putting this mask on and that mask on. I
Right.
was simply trying to survive. I was trying to be
Mhm.
safe, loved, and accepted. And that's really, isn't that what we all need? Right. And so there's nothing wrong with the fact that we do that. But when we do that without awareness, we are separated from ourselves.
Yes.
If you do it with awareness and intention, that can be a different thing. I mean, people dress up for Halloween, right?
Mhm.
You can go into your corporate job and you can put on your high heels and your lipstick and your, fancy clothes and then go home and put on your hippie pants. Like you
Mhm.
might have to wear a mask of sorts sometimes, but knowing that, being intentional in it, saying, "Oh, okay, I'm getting dressed up for my job today," and, go to work, but you still know who you really are. And
Mhm.
for me, the alignment, the thing that can't be masked for me is the core essence that I have learned my true self wants to embody, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so for me, what those things are the values and morals and ethics and passions and things that I have learned are paramount to me. So things like I value community. Community is one of my top values.
Mhm.
And I value treating all life. And for me, that actually has recently spread beyond humans and animals to plants, but really valuing all life as being sacred and special. And so,
Hmm.
like knowing these truths about you, I can dress up and go to a fancy job, but if somebody says something to me that is out of alignment with those things, nope,
Yep.
I'm not putting on a mask there,
Yeah.
Right.
not doing it. But yeah, putting one on here, that's fine. But the
Yeah.
stuff inside, that's non-negotiable. Now that I know it, now that I know what those things are for me, they're
Right.
non-negotiable.
Mhm.
We're a bit like an
Yeah.
onion, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
You just peel away the layers until you get to that little nugget, that little core in there. And that's the essence of who you are. And the
Yep.
closer you get, the more it's a self-discovery. The more you get to know you
Yep.
and happier you are.
Yep.
Mhm. And then you realize how the importance of not compromising on those core beliefs that you have.
Yep.
You can, like you said, you can compromise on other little piddly stuff like,
Yep.
having to dress up for work or whatever, but your core beliefs, you learn by learning yourself, you do not compromise on those. You don't let anybody take those away from you or make
Yep.
you do something that goes against those core beliefs.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So you help people with their major life transitions. And what do people most often come to you about? Which kinds of transitions?
It can be divorce is a common one, but it can also be facing retirement, empty nesting, job transition. One of the ones that kind of surprised me is because those are all sort of 50 and older kind of people,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
what surprised me was discovering that there's a lot of young people in like their late 20s, early 30s who spent all this time and money and energy going to college, getting their degree, getting their first job. And now they're going, oh my God, is this all there is to life?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
this is my future. This is what I've worked this hard for. And so it's anybody asking that existential question, who am I? And it usually gets asked when some sort of disconnect, happens. It happens a lot in divorce because you're coupled, right? And then now you're
Yeah.
not. So who am I if I'm not two?
Right.
Who is this? But yeah, empty nests, like not all empty nests are two people, but say the two people raise these kids together and now all of a sudden the kids are gone and the two people have to look at each other and go, who are you? And, oh, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
In that dynamic. Job, somebody's facing retirement. They've been an engineer their whole life, 40 years of being an engineer. I'm not going to be an engineer anymore. What am I? Like when I go to a party and somebody says, oh, what do you do? I can't say engineer anymore. What do I
Yep.
say? Who am I? Right?
Yeah, I'm actually watching that happen at my own house right now. So, and it's been quite interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, he's learning. He's figuring it out, but it's taking a while. That's not an easy thing to do. To step away from something that you've done all of your life, and suddenly you're at home, and what are you going to do all day? So yeah. So you talked about the different types of transitions that people most often come to you with. I was really surprised that you had a younger age group in there. I
Yeah,
really
it was
expected
too.
older,
Yep. Yeah. I mean, when I realized that was a group that it was relevant to, I was surprised too, honestly.
Yeah. It's just,
Yeah. So describe a reflection exercise to uncover one's true self.
well, yeah.
Yeah. So I have one. This is available for free on my website. I've filmed it as a video. It's also the very first exercise of my book. In my book, it's the chapter foreplay because it kind of lubricates your mind and your energy
Right.
for the whole process of uncovering. It's Who Am I is the name of the exercise. And I have a bunch I can give to you right now. But to me, the Who Am I one is important because it starts that process first. Usually, the first time somebody does it, what it does is it doesn't reveal who they are. It reveals that they don't know who they are, like at all. Right.
Mm,
So it
yeah.
gets them starting on the, oh, like I have trouble answering this.
Mm-hmm.
And then later it's an exercise you could do over and over and probably should do over and over because you'll always get different answers, but there's 4 different ways to do it. And again, my video free walks you through it. The first way is a partnered version where you really only want to do it with a partner if it's a partner you super trust, right? The partner's job is to ask the question as if they're your ego. So, who am I? So they just stare at you, you stare at them, and they start by saying, who am I? You are answering the question about who you are. And they're just there to repeat that question anytime you get stuck, just as like a nudge to remind you. They're not allowed to nod or smile or shake their head or they just have to sit there and be your ego, the little nudger. And you set a timer for about 3 minutes and you do that. The second way is to journal it, and I recommend people number their page 1 to 30 and then write down 30 or more answers to who am I. And I usually get stuck around 12. So it's not that easy to do 30. The third way is a mirror version. So you just stare at yourself in the mirror and you do it. And you also say, who am I, when you get stuck with answering the question. So you act as the prompt as well. And then the fourth way is what I call the quickie, where you just set your timer for like 45 seconds and you say as many as you can in the 45 seconds. So those are 4 different versions of the same exercise to start that process. There are a lot of other exercises that my book actually has, and then 1,000 questions. And it's not intended for you to do every exercise or answer every question. There's so many there because different ones will resonate with different people, and different people need to do more digging in one area than another. It breaks things down into your mental body, emotional body, physical body, and spiritual energy body. And that's how the chapters are broken down. But the other good introductory exercise that I like is the detective. So with the detective, you pretend that you're a detective, you get, paper and pen, and you're looking for the missing person. And the missing person is you, right?
Right.
So you go around your house with your pen and paper and you look to see, okay, I've got to figure out where this missing person is. So let me see what they like. Oh, lots of books. Wow. Maybe they're in a library. Maybe they're in a bookstore. Maybe they're in a book group, okay. And then what kind of books do they like? Oh, they like cooking books. Okay. So, or cookbooks, oh, okay. So maybe they're, at a cooking class or whatever. So it helps you start to see like the passions and like the, and maybe it's religious books, maybe it's Bibles, oh, okay. So they're really deep into, their spiritual or their religious practices. So it helps you see what's important to you, where your passions are, where your values are, which is, I think, a really fun way of starting the process of digging.
Really like the detective one. That
I did
I
too.
never, as you were describing how to do it, I'm in my head
I'm
thinking,
thinking,
okay, what all kinds of things do I have
yeah,
around my
what would
house
I
that,
say?
yeah, what would I say? Now I want to go try it after this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh yeah, I've got a lot of cookbooks. I could say that. It's great.
Right. So how can people tell the difference between their intuition calling them forward and fear trying to keep them small? I mean, how do you start
Oh,
trusting yourself as your own guide?
that's an easy one. If the voice is encouraging and positive and supportive and inspiring, it's your truth. If the voice is, you'll never get that done. Oh my God, don't do that. You might fail. Oh, you're going to hurt yourself. Oh, they're going to think you're stupid. That's not your truth.
Oh,
That's not your truth.
gotcha.
Your truth will never talk that way to you. Ever, ever, ever. I can't say that enough. Your truth will not do that to you. Your truth is loving and amazing and magnificent and brilliant and knows that and owns it.
And trust that,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. So,
Yeah.
what does living in alignment feel like for you?
Peace. Oh my God. I didn't even realize that. So I've been diagnosed as bipolar, so I certainly have ups and downs and whatever. And peace always sounded like a really boring word to me. I have a whole story around that, but um I was talking to my therapist a couple weeks ago and I said, I don't know exactly when it started, but I've started feeling this really calm happiness. And he said, that sounds like peace. And I'm like, oh my God, that is peace. It's peace. So, yeah, I mean, living in alignment is things just flow. The pieces connect. Things don't rattle you. My dog is right here in late stage cancer, right? Um,
Oh,
yeah, it's horrible. And I'm learning
Mhm.
lots of lessons on surrender and all of that with her. I just lost my cat in the last 8 months. I lost my
Oh
stepson in the
no.
last 10 months. Yeah, I mean it's been interesting. And all of that, was quite traumatic. So the fact that I have been able to sit in this place of peace is kind of miraculous. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I used to be suicidal, like all the
Mhm.
time. Like
Right.
more than 10 years of my life, I ruminated about killing myself every single day. The idea that I could have peace is insane. And that is what living in alignment looks like.
That's wonderful.
That is
What are the key components for your, how you say it? Is it Paramore or
Oh,
Paramore?
Paramore
Paramore
paradox.
paradox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paramore paradox is the idea that we spend our lives looking for love outside of ourselves. And the paradox is that our true love is inside us. Our true love is
Yeah.
us. So the ecosystem, for lack of a better word, on my project, Paramore Paradox, is um, a lot of different pieces that are there to help remind you of that uncovering and connection and love of your truth. And the reason there's so much, so I have a book, and the book actually, believe it or not, the first version of it was written in 1999.
Oh,
And there's a
wow.
whole story
Oh,
in my book about that. Now, the book has been very redone, but the objective and the structure of the book is the same as it was in 1999. Um, so the book is on there, and the journal is about to come out within the next couple weeks. And it's not just a journal to write in; it's further deeper dig into stuff. And it's also the journal is to help people not get overwhelmed by the process. The first part of the journal helps you sort of set your pace and your rhythm and, how you like to learn and grow and do things. The third part, it sounds weird, but it's t-shirts. The t-shirts have messages on the back, like up by your collar line, that are messages for the person behind you in line to
Mm-hmm.
help them remember that there's something else. So I also have them on cards. So there are things like, here's a funny one. I know who I am. I just haven't told the version I'm pretending to be that they're not real.
Like that.
A more serious one is, this is your life. Make it count. You have your answers. A fun one, live like a dog with its head out the window. So anyways, those kind
I
of
love that.
messages are on the back of the t-shirts. And there's an app that's coming out in a few weeks, a course that I'm still developing, and then a community, which will be within the app. And the reason there's all this, so I was honestly guided to do each of these parts. It didn't come from logic. But what I've come to understand is that a lot of times, and I'll speak in the first person, a lot of times I will read a book. Like recently, I read The Four Agreements. Brilliant book. Love it. Awesome. And I was like, I'm going to live by these agreements. And then the next day, somebody said something to me, and I'm like, oh, I know I'm supposed to do something here. What are the four agreements? What are those four agreements? And, I couldn't remember them. So what happens, I think, a lot is we read something or hear something that really resonates with us, but it goes out our brain too fast because we're too busy living and being, distracted and immersed in life. And so it's hard to remember that we're on the path, what the path is, where we've gotten on the path. So all those pieces are really there to help as a reminder. So another thing that I've done for myself that is free on the website is this lock screen.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
So
that's pretty.
that's thank you. That's downloadable. That's my logo in a portal with an archaeologist, because I talk about a dig and an excavation. So that every time I pick up my phone, I go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm on this path. I'm on this journey. This is where I'm headed. I've also got these things that I call mind expanding experiences, because people get freaked out by the word meditation, but really, in order to hear our truth, we have to shut down monkey mind. The
Mm-hmm.
only way to shut
Yep.
down monkey mind is by meditation. But meditation scares a lot of people. So I have come to learn that meditation takes so many different forms. It can be when you chew your food, paying attention to the textures and the flavors. It can be taking a walk in nature and trying to notice more colors or textures than you have. It could be taking a walk in the city and trying to see things that you've never seen before, graffiti tag or, whatever. But it doesn't have to be sitting cross-legged and saying Om. My little meditations that, again, are free. They're like 10 to 20 minutes. And they are tools for helping you see the filter that you've been seeing through. We see through a filter. Our brain's job is to filter information so that we can function in this world. We only see 0.01%, and it's actually less than that, but 0.01% of what is actually in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But our brain helps us and lets us see only part of that so that we can function. The problem is that your brain is wired for efficiency, and also for expectation. So it gives you what you expect to see. So it filters out all the other stuff and just gives you what you expect. Well, if you expect to see trauma, drama, pain, sorrow, frustration, nothing working right, guess what your brain's going to give you? Not because your brain is mean or bad. It's trying to make things efficient. So it's going to give you that.
Right.
So once you see or feel or hear, because that's what each one is, that, oh, there is a filter. And if you know there's a filter, you can then tinker with that filter so that it works to your benefit.
So, Kristen, what do you hope readers feel when they connect with your words?
I hope they feel glimmers of their truth and ultimately hear their truth loud and clear. That's all I want. That's what my truth wants me to do for this world.
So, Kristen, where can our listeners find out more about you and your work?
Well, I like to boil it down to one simple. I mean, I have several websites, but you2.0.com. So that's YOU, the number 2, the word point, the number 0.com. If you go there, there's a little video of me saying, hey, in a moment of change, schedule. You can have a free conversation with me for a half hour. Again, this is my passion. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want you to find peace. So if you want to talk for a half hour, if that helps give you some direction to get your peace, then I've done my job.
You're amazing.
That's wonderful.
You guys are too. Truly.
Wow.
You're magnificent. Magnificent.
We all
Exactly. And so are all of our listeners.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
You
Well,
are so
Kristen,
worth it out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't let anybody tell you different. And if they
Absolutely
do,
not.
turn and
Oh,
walk away.
Here's a litmus test. Here's a litmus
Run.
test that I've learned. So when I reflected on the things that my wife would say to me in my marriage, I realized that if I had said any one of those to her, all hell would have broken loose. I would never say to her
Yeah.
the things that she said to me.
Yeah.
So now my litmus test is if somebody says something to me that I wouldn't say to them or to anybody,
Mm-hmm.
they shouldn't be around me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a no-no.
Yep. Exactly. If you say something to them that is something that they would say to you and they blow up and are unaccepting of it,
That's a
then
big clue.
that right there is a huge clue and tells you that's toxic and you don't need that in your life.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Kristen, thank you for sharing your journey so honestly and for reminding us that sometimes the bravest trips we take are the ones going inward. And to all of our listeners, whether your next chapter involves travel, stillness, or simply asking better questions, we hope this conversation reminds you that clarity comes from listening, not running. And we'll make sure to link Kristen's website in the show notes for everyone so you can reach out if you feel like that would help you in any way. And until next time, take care, keep traveling your story, and keep making memories for life.